What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rats on Film, the show where a bunch of film rats talk about and rank movies. On the show with me today, I have Jordan.
I can't do it. Hello.
Yeah, you can.
What time is it? Podcast time.
Madolyn.
What team? Wildcats.
And I'm your host, Xander. Welcome to the show, everybody. Yeah, so we're talking about High School Musical, a classic series.
Classic.
The best DCOM, probably?
I think so.
For those unaware, as I was before I met Jordan, Disney Channel original movie. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just get right into it. High School Musical, the first one, came out in 2006, and lives were changed.
Lives were changed. It was a very pivotal point in my life. I think I was like 12. So as you can imagine, the discovery of Zac Efron was life-changing in itself. Then when I first saw this movie, again, I was a bit behind because all the Disney Channel people had already watched it. But once I got my hands on that DVD, it was very well loved in our family.
Yeah, I think I just watched it like straight up on Disney Channel when it debuted and instantly was in love with it. I wasn't a Zac Efron girl though. I oddly had a crush on Lucas Grabeel.
That one aged really well.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about me. I loved it.
Yeah, I think I came to the first one a little bit late. My memory is that I was probably in like 5th grade, and in our music class, we used to play like the recorder and the glockenspiel. We sang a High School Musical song. I was like, this is kind of cool. And so then I watched the movie and I was like, this rules.
What's your favorite song?
I don't know. Probably Breaking Free in the first one. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite overall in the series, but if we're just talking about the first one for now, I'd probably say that one. I think the first one has, if not the best music, at least the most iconic music. I feel like all the songs in it are very memorable. Stick to the Status Quo would be the other one that might be my favorite in the first one.
I kind of disagree with you on that one.
Okay.
I love the music in the first one, but obviously Breaking Free is super iconic and most of the songs are, but there are some kind of forgettable ones, which when I just rewatched it again, I was like, oh my God, yeah, Gabriella sings that song by herself and it's so boring. Yeah. We'll get to it later, some of my other favorite songs that come up across the series, but I think, yeah, Breaking Free, to hear that it got a boy into watching High School Musical just blows my mind. Because Jordan and I were just saying we thought this was a girl thing when we were kids, but it really is like a super universal thing because I think the male characters are so strong and they have that element to them where they aren't just singing for the fun of a musical, like they have a bit of conflict in them and they're sporty guys and it's all just a bit more natural, I feel, than your typical movie musical. And I think that's down to a lot of things, including, you know, like they filmed it in a real school. The costumes are just kind of normal people clothes. Like everything's a little bit more casual, but Kenny Ortega really knows when to step it up with like the choreography moments. Like Get Your Head in the Game is so iconic. Like how did they even do that? I still watch it to this day and I'm like, how did they dance like that? I have no idea.
And with the balls as well. Mm-hmm. Using the sneaker scratches or squeaks on the floor and the ball bouncing for the rhythm in that song is really great.
Yeah, and I think casting actual dancers, like Corbin Blue's dance moves in every movie, but like especially in the first one, just because we get to know him there, like I think casting people who actually know how to dance, it shows and it shines throughout the movies, all of them.
Yeah. And
I really like, you mentioned Stick to the Status Quo, and I think that song is kind of what the whole series is about. It's like everyone, even if they like fit into a stereotype, has other interests, like cello or baking or hip hop, even though she doesn't really hip hop.
I complained about that the entire time. I was like, when is she going to do a hip hop dance?
Yeah.
But I think that's so interesting and real. Like people are multifaceted. People have multiple interests. And I think that's where the strength of this series shines.
Yeah, they're just nice little innocent movies with a really nice message. And like the first one, pretty simple, like, yeah, stick to the status quo, but you don't have to because you can do whatever you want. Unfortunately, the thing that brings it down for me is the fact that Zac Efron doesn't sing on the soundtrack.
Yeah, you can tell.
I wish there was like High School Musical, the soundtrack, Zac Efron's version.
Yeah.
But I'll carry on with it. But it's not him. It's not him.
Yeah, and you can really tell. And I'm pretty sure when they did the live tour, it was like Drew Seeley, on the tour, which was the first time that I realized that it wasn't him singing because I didn't know that as a kid. But I do think that the next two movies, like it sounds like him in it, and it adds a bit to it.
It
like,
does,
and he can sing.
He can sing really well.
The whole cast is pretty good. I mean, Ashley Tisdale does a great job. Corbin Bleu, Vanessa Hudgens, they all actually have pretty solid singing voices. It is really nice, and it helps you feel connected to the characters that it is them singing.
Yeah, and I think also in terms of like they were all pretty decent friends, that you can tell that, and the chemistry between Zach and Vanessa is super easy. I feel like that's why it has lasted, because you're not looking at it with cringe. There's not that much cringe in it when you watch it these days. It's just pretty like sincere and funny and cute and innocent. So I think that's a really important part of like the performances.
And Madolyn mentioned this earlier, but you said they shot it in a high school and they wore normal clothes. And I think that is something that also like maintains, like it makes you want to go back and watch it, because it just does look like high school. Like all the kids are a little bit older than high school kids, but other than that, it's not beautifully shot. Like it's not like these like cinematic framed shots. Like it just kind of looks like high school, but it also doesn't look like the fake high schools that were in some of the Disney shows.
Exactly, 100%. And like being non-American, like I watched this and I was like, oh, okay, that's what American high school is like. And like obviously I've seen other shows that have American high schools in it, but you're like, that's not real, that can't be real. But in this one, I'm like, oh, maybe it is. Yeah. Maybe every school has an auto shop. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not that.
I've been told. Maybe every school has a 3-tier cafeteria. I don't know.
I will say this movie contributed largely to my misconception of what high school would be like. My high school was so lame compared to this high school. No enthusiasm. We didn't cheer for our school mascot. We didn't have the 3-tiered cafeteria or anything like that. And I feel like, you know, I saw it when I was like 10 years old. So it really made me be like, whoa, that's what it's going to be like one day. And it was not. But now I like to go back to it for nostalgia and be like, man, what could have been?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much to say, but I think, music is great. I love Kenny Ortega.
Like he just knows how to shoot dance, and Kenny did a really great job with the way, especially with like Get Your Head in the Game. Like, how do you even shoot that? I have no idea. Yeah, everything just comes to life with him because he keeps it not fancy, but he just gets it done and it looks good.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about where they were with the first movie, starting an iconic trilogy. But surely they didn't think that this was going to be that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it really elevated beyond, I think, expectations. And it just came out, again, from my perspective, it came out of nowhere.
Oh, I agree.
Had no idea it was coming, had no idea it was out. And then all of a sudden, people were singing the songs, and I was like, oh, well, that's cool.
One thing that I think is interesting, and this is kind of a comment that will lead to the next movie, but it was interesting that the musical doesn't happen in this movie. Like it leads up to a callback, which is just a second audition, and the movie's called High School Musical. And then when they made a sequel, they made the decision to fast forward past the musical and for it to be summer.
I kind of love that.
Yeah.
There is something to, sometimes stuff is better in your head.
Yeah, that's true.
You can imagine,
like, build up the musical.
You can imagine Troy and Gabrielle's first musical.
The third one, so.
All right, so top of the list for now.
For now. Next up, High School Musical 2, a mere single year later.
The best
in
sequel
2007.
of all time. I don't know.
The best sequel of all time. Do you think so?
I think.
We had a conversation in this vein of it's got to be one of the best trilogies of all time because it's a very consistent level.
Yeah.
But also, like, speaking to best sequel, it is a really bold choice to fast forward through the musical, not rehash anything that we just saw, put them in summer break, put them in a new location. Like, it's literally a high school movie, and you put them in a country club. Like, what a bizarre choice from the outside in. I think it was a very smart choice, but what a strange choice from the outside in.
No, yeah, definitely. But it works really well because we talked a lot about how what makes the first one really good is the relatability of it just feels very natural. Summer break is a thing that every high school kid, every middle school kid, every elementary school kid knows about and looks forward to. And it does feel like part of being a kid and being in that phase of your life. And so it works really well to put those characters there. I don't know. Sometimes with sequels, they rehash storylines. And that's probably my one complaint about this. I feel like Troy just kind of does the same thing he does in the first movie again.
Sharpay is my biggest.
Sharpay resets every movie.
Yes,
like,
that's my
everyone else has a bit of development, but she's just like, whoop, I'm mean again.
Yeah.
It's annoying because at the end, there's like always some resolution. She's always hanging out with Gabriella, and then at the next movie, she's not.
Yeah.
Like if they didn't do it at the end, I'd be like, oh, she just doesn't learn.
Yeah.
She loves Zeke's cookies at the end of the first movie. And then she doesn't know who he is. Yeah. And I'm just like, the guy made you a lot of cookies, I bet.
Yeah, he probably did. I mean, I think the decision to move it is what keeps it really fresh in the second one. But it also introduces like a lot of concepts that kids that age are really thinking about, like future plans, college plans, like scholarships, jobs, like things that you just need to think about that are different from like the school problems. But I think, yeah, the decision to put it in a different setting and something that's so aesthetically different as well. They really turn the saturation all the way up. They spray tanned everyone. Everyone's wearing super bright clothes, like really white contrast. It looks really great, and it is memorable because it does look really different.
They used the fuck out of that golf course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Again, they used real locations. Like, it looks great.
Yeah. That stuff is really immeasurable how valuable that is when you go back and rewatch something that's older, and it feels like high school because it was in a high school.
Yeah.
Now, do we all agree that this is the best music of the series?
Yes.
Maybe it's the best, but the first one is still my favorite.
That's how I feel, Jordan. I think that maybe there's more bangers in this one, but they don't hit the peaks of the first one for me.
I just think the first one was such a like moment for me as a child that it's tied with nostalgia, and I can't untangle that. But I think there are some songs in this one that like technically and performance wise are better.
Yeah, and a lot of them have become more widespread than the ones in the first one. You know, the incredible breakup song. It has
So good.
an amazing character development song from Bet On It. Like, I rewatched the first one and I was like, oh, maybe I've forgotten these movies. And then I put the second one on and I was like, no, I can say every line.
Yeah.
It's so good. But, you know, work this out. Like, the choreography, amazing.
Fabulous too.
Fabulous.
So good.
Such a good one.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit already, but I think the big criticism I have of this one is a little bit of a repeat character arc on Troy. And we didn't really talk about it in the first one, but he's such a dick for no reason. I know they trick him, and I know they try and coerce him into saying something bad, but he goes really hard on it.
Yeah, and the
for
first
no
one, like,
reason.
I get that they tricked him, and he could have been like, the musical means nothing. But when he comes down, it's like, Gabriella's just a girl.
Yeah,
I'm like,
he
you didn't need to do all
say
that.
Yeah. But they were really mean to him.
Yeah,
they were
true.
really mean to him. In the second one, like, he just kind of turns into a little bit of a dick, but it takes a long time for him to get there. Like, he's trying to resist it for a really long time, and then almost immediately he turns it back and has the best recovery song of all time. So
I do like that at least it's tied with the basketball scholarship guys, like the guys from the school. So at least it wasn't like he just got swayed by Sharpay, because like he kind of knows her bullshit. I like that it wasn't just her. And again, Madolyn mentioned earlier, scholarships are a big deal to people, and like they're all working a summer job. Sharpay and Ryan are just like messing
you have
around.
the class, like
Yeah, and I think that's like really great to have both. Like Corbin Blue's like, I'm saving up for a car, and they're just like, we need summer jobs. So like I like all of that, but I do like that there's like a little bit more of a power dynamic that's not just Sharpay that makes him turn into a little bit of a dick, just because I think that works better.
Yeah, but while all that's happening, like I do feel like you lose a lot of Gabriella. Obviously, you don't see her that much. While that's all happening, you just see her sort of a bit hurt on the side.
I was going to say, while Troy's arc is not great in this one, it's a little bit of a rehash, and Gabriella's is just kind of non-existent, and Sharpay's is a repeat again. Ryan is really a nothing character in the first movie. He's just Sharpay's lackey. I know it's her twin brother, but he doesn't have his own distinct personality. He just follows her around and does whatever she does. Giving him his own autonomy in this, introducing the idea of him being somebody who wants to be involved on the choreography level and be a part of facilitating these musical performances and stuff like that, is actually really well done and really great for his character to actually get something new to do. Favorite song in this one?
Bet On It.
I think I Don't Dance, actually. It's mine.
I think it's such a funny bit that the guy who is currently on Broadway
Says I Don't Dance.
I Don't Dance.
Yeah, yeah, like he doesn't know that he's danced in the first one. You know what I mean? Like that didn't really happen. So
They do the musical thing where nobody realizes they're in a musical. It just all of a sudden they cut into song inexplicably, and then they go back to life as if nothing happened.
yeah.
Which I like in the first movie and in this one. Almost every song progresses the plot in some way, whether it's a character decision or whether it's like it's summertime. Like, what time is it? Summertime. Like, every song does something. Someone's breaking up. Someone's having character development. Something is happening in the plot. But in the next one, that doesn't always happen.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was literally watching them back, and I'm like, wow. Because I know, Xander, you have that complaint about a lot of movie musicals that the music just stops everything, right?
Yeah.
But in these ones, it actually doesn't. Like,
Totally
it
agree.
really just moves everything forward, and so much happens like throughout Bet on It and even Gotta Go My Own Way. Like that's
Such a good song.
a great song. That used to make me cry all the time. And then you have that whole character development where he's like sitting in his room. He's like, I don't even know who I am anymore. It's so good. Like he really just switches it back.
Yeah, it does have a great pace to it, and it moves along really well, and it's really easy to follow. Sometimes in movie musicals, the song can be a little bit too abstract, and then you lose the narrative of, wait, what did they just do? Not at all the case in High School Musical. It's very straightforward. It's very to the point, and it flows and works really well.
One thing that's so funny though is every time Kelsey writes a song like "Breaking Free" or "You Are the Music in Me," and this one, like, she starts playing the piano, and then all these other instruments come in out of nowhere. I love it.
So we know where Madolyn's gonna put it. Jordan, where are you gonna put it?
I think the first is still first for me. Xander?
I've been really struggling with it the last couple of days, trying to decide.
You're the tiebreaker.
I know. I really actually don't want to be, because I'm gonna catch hate from one side of the table or the other.
They both are good.
Yeah, they're both good. I mean, the first one has a huge nostalgia factor for me. I think I like the music better in the first one, even if I think the songs are better in the second one. They're more iconic to me. I quote them more. I sing them in my head more when I'm alone. I'll say the first one.
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
Defeated.
We're heading for a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Well, just wait. Last up in the trilogy, High School Musical 3, 2008.
Lives were changed again.
Theatrical release.
Yeah, I have an older sister, and my mom and I dropped her off at the movie theater to see an R-rated movie, and my mom and I saw this movie, and we met up at the end. So she did not see this movie in theaters, but I did.
Loser.
I saw it in theaters, a preview screening that I got tickets for off MySpace. That was the era. And then that opening scene, like the 3 goes up in lights and then it goes black, and then he's just comes up with like the sweaty hair, and it's like the middle of a basketball game, like the final quarter. It's so exciting, and like, oh my God. I think everyone just passed away.
That scene is really great, actually.
It's so good.
It's a cool way to open it because they do escalate. You know, they've got a bigger budget now. It is theatrical release, and they're trying to show what they can bring to the table now. And they really stepped up a lot of elements in the movie overall. But that scene specifically, opening with that and kind of going all in on the first scene, being like, this is what this High School Musical is.
Yeah, but it's also a really good throwback and callback to all of the other ones because it's a familiar location.
Yeah.
It uses like the sports sounds, the ambient sounds really, really well in like the actual music of the song, which is just so incredible. And then I think really what the budget went to, you can see it immediately, is bigger sets, more extras, better costumes. Like they didn't try and go crazy with it. They just used what they had to expand, and everything looks really, really great. But even if they had just filmed it in the school, it still would have looked really good. So I think they really used it well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it still feels like it's the same universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is definitely a step up, just quality of the filmmaking, but it doesn't feel like when you watch a movie and it's like the technology is so different, it looks the same, it feels the same, the characters feel the same. And I think them coming out with one every year, they didn't really give the characters that much time to change.
Yes.
So it works.
And yeah, the audience still really knows them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one, it's really interesting because I liked these movies a lot growing up, but I was too young in the sense of I wasn't in high school when they were coming out. So I wasn't experiencing the things that the characters were experiencing when I was first watching them. So some of the stuff in this movie of the going out on your own, graduating from high school, kind of this chapter ending of your life, it resonates with me in a different way now as an adult. And so I feel like I had a new appreciation for this movie watching it again. And so it was cool to revisit it and to have that new, more adult perspective on it and the progression of the characters and what they're going through at that phase in their life that I just didn't have a concept of in 2008 when I was in middle school.
Yeah, I think the same. Like, obviously I've been watching and rewatching them my whole life, but when I first watched them, I was nowhere near what that was like. And in Australia, we enter high school at like 12, 13. It's a different kind of thing. So I was like, oh, I'm going to high school, I'm so grown up. But it really still wasn't even close.
Yeah, you can definitely see the struggle within all of the characters to like decide between Stanford in the musical or basketball in the musical, and like what your future is going to be. Are you going to get that scholarship? Are you going to leave the state? Are you going to choose your friends? Are you going to choose your significant other? Are you going to choose your passion? All of those things, like so many people experience at every stage of your life. There are hard decisions people have to make, and it's boiled down to high school. And I really like that this is, like I said before, I liked that the second one was a summer movie. I like that this one is a return to form, and we're back in high school, and we get to see these kids that we fell in love with finish high school, because that's really what it's all about. Definitely agree with both of you. When I watched it, I was too young to think about it, but even as a high school movie, some of the themes resonate with the decisions you make as an adult. So
yeah, it's cool to project yourself onto the characters in the situation that you're in at the time, right? I think that's sort of the power of film in general. And when you make characters that are relatable, sounds so like easy to say. I feel like people say that about a lot of characters, but you kind of said it about the first movie, Madolyn, that it's very basic and it's just kind of very nice, and they're excited about this musical, and that's really all it is. It's not deeper than that, but sometimes that lets you kind of put your own depth onto it. And I think this movie does kind of go a step deeper than the first one does, but it still is that basic human thing of, like you said, Jordan, having to make big life decisions.
There is sort of parts of every character's story that people can relate to during high school and even after. Like, those decisions don't end. Just that kind of decision making just keeps on going. Like, I'm still making them. So watching it now, I'm like, yeah, I still love it.
Now, to be fair to Madolyn's favorite, that in her eyes we've snubbed,
yeah, I
will level the same criticism against this one that I did in the second one. Sharpay is a reset button yet again, and it's even more tired this time than it was in 2. And I really wish they had done something different. And I even just like, we've been talking about the interpersonal conflicts being really good in this one. I don't know that they needed a quote unquote villain. I feel like that would have been enough.
Yeah, I like the idea that that young girl is like her minion, and then at the end kind of schools her and is like, I'm gonna be the new you. But I kind of maybe would have liked to see her try to start that conflict with just Sharpay earlier, and that be the conflict, and Sharpay learn like, why have I always been like this? Like, this is not fun. And I really do like, over the course of the second movie and the third movie, Ryan's arc to being like, oh, I want to be a choreographer. Like that, he goes for the scholarship and he choreographs the whole musical. And I kind of wish we saw something like that from Sharpay, where like she was like, oh, maybe being in the spotlight isn't for me, but I want to be a part of the theater. Like maybe I'll be a theater director or something like that. Like I think that would have been
so
great.
Smart. I think that would have been such a great arc for her to take that step back of not being fabulous, of not being of not being bopped to the top, of just being a part of something bigger.
Well, that's why it kind of falls so flat at the end when they're all lining up and saying what they're going to do in the future, and Miss Dobbs is like, Sharpay's going to come back and help us with the theatre program next year. It's like, why would she do that? Like, the Sharpay that we know would not do that.
Yeah, she would
like,
pursue her
She would
dreams
absolutely
at no
not
cost.
do that.
She didn't give up all years of high school.
Exactly.
She'll come back to be the star of it, probably.
Yeah, and I know obviously they're just trying to set up for another movie, but they could have just finished her off in a nice little way.
Another thing to level against this one is it's certainly the weakest music of the trilogy. Now, that being said, I do think it has good songs in it.
It definitely does, yeah.
And even rewatching it, I think I've only seen it once before this. I was like, I don't know if I know all these songs. I definitely remembered 80% of them. It definitely is not as strong as the other two, but the choreography in this one is just as strong as the other two. I think there's a lot of good dance numbers in it.
Like, the songs that are really, really strong are given a lot to work with on screen, like Scream, amazing set. They built that whole rotating thing. They would never have ever been able to do that. Now or Never, incredible. We already talked about it. I really love the closing song, High School Musical.
Yeah, I think
it's a perfect wrap up to the series as a whole. Super emotional. They come out, they do a little jump at the end. It's just like a really, really great finish.
Iconic jump.
One complaint I have about this movie, and maybe it's just my own taste with like high school movies, is I get why they did it, but I don't like that like the prom we see is the prom in the musical. Like I don't really like that conflate. Like I wanted to see them go to prom, and even if Troy and Gabriella weren't there, I would want to see the other characters, because like I don't know, I just love prom scenes. Like it's like a pivotal thing in a high school movie. And I think there are some transition songs that are like that, where like we're in the musical but it's meta for what's going on in the movie, that I don't think are the strongest or the most well done. And I think a lot of the songs in this movie, unlike the other two, it's not even that they don't progress the plot, they just feel like set pieces. Like they don't feel like a part of the story.
I agree. And like you can see it. Like A Night to Remember is an amazing song, and like the dancing is really great, but then they're like, oh, 5 minutes, take a break, like we'll run it again. I'm like, oh, come on, like
that was going
was
somewhere.
Their moment. It was so good. I think that is why they didn't do the musical in the first movie, because it would have just halted it.
Yeah. One song that I actually think is a good song and I love watching it, The Boys Are Back.
Yeah.
Why is that in this movie? Mm-hmm. It's cute. I love seeing the little kids as them as flashback. Like, I get that they're friends. Troy's thinking about, is he going to stay? Like, I get that that's all there, but why are they at a car pound? Like, what
There's
are they
like, we
doing?
need a different location. Troy has a truck right now.
Where are you guys putting High School Musical 3?
3.
Yeah, it's at the bottom for me.
Listen, I'll lose, but I might hot take and say I like 3 better than 2.
Wow.
I'm
Once
throwing
again,
out my headphones and leaving right now.
Once again, the music is so good in 2, but I get really frustrated by Troy and Gabriella are the characters I care about the most in the movie. I really like them in 1. Troy having a rehashed arc is really frustrating to me, and he's just kind of a dick in the second one, which I don't like. And Gabriella doesn't really have anything. She just kind of gets sad that Troy is being a dick.
But then she drops the best breakup song.
The breakup song is a banger. Again, music is bangers. But as far as the character plots and the arcs that they go through, Troy's just a dick until he gets broken up with, and then he goes, oh yeah, my bad. And Gabriella just kind of takes it until she goes, I'm gonna look out for myself, which does rule excellent.
One thing in the second one,
there's not.
In the second one, it's interesting. Like, Troy never actually apologizes to her.
Right, I know.
She just shows back up.
I know. So
it
like kind of bothers me in the second one. And I like in the third one, Gabriella kind of becomes the villain of their relationship slightly. That is more interesting to me than it being Troy again. And again, you understand she's struggling with, does she want to go to school? You know, does she want to lose Troy to her friends? She's never been in one place in her life. I like that Troy encourages her to go her own way, but also is willing to be true to himself about what he wants, and he finds a compromise that works for him and for her. But it also isn't perfect. It's not a perfect ending. They don't go to school together. And I kind of like that about the third one. I think that ends up being stronger for me just because I care about those 2 characters. So I would put 3 above 2.
I do think the scene where he asks her why she didn't tell him that she was going to Stanford or got into the Stanford program is really good. I like the maturity of Troy in that scene, unlike the second movie, when he's just like, no, like, you have to do it though. I don't know. I feel like a lot of romance movies are just like, it's the couple. Like, you got to do what's best for our relationship. Right. And I think it was a good choice for them to be like, no, but like, you care about this and I care about this. I like that.
Yeah, so I would put 3 above 2, but I will concede, and it will be a 1, 2, 3 list.
Wow.
The rats have spoken. So just to recap, not that it's hard to keep track on this one, the rats ranking for High School Musical, objectively in our opinion, starting from the bottom, High School Musical 3, High School Musical 2, and the big cheese of the show, High School Musical.
We are all in this together.
I don't know if we're all in this together.
I'm getting some looks. I'm getting Sharpayed from across the table right now.
Don't compare me to her. Horrible.
Well, thanks for listening to Rats on Film, everybody. Tell a friend about the show where we talk about and rank movies. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on social media. We have a Letterboxd account, an Instagram, a TikTok. We're on YouTube, Rats on Film Pod. On Letterboxd, we'll post this list and all the future lists we make on there. So follow us there. Let us know what you think about our lists, what lists you'd like to see us make in the future. And we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about and rank more movies.
Bye.
Bye.
Our heads were in the game.
Our heads were in the game.